like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for another Sega Saturn review, and today we're going back to February of 1996 to take a look at our second 2D shooter on the system, known over here in Europe as Galactic Attack. So you may or may not be aware that Galactic Attack wasn't originally this game's name. It was known as Rayforce in the Japanese arcades, but there were some trademarking issues with that, so it got renamed Layer Section for the Japanese console release, and it was known over here in the arcades as Gunlock before being renamed Galactic Attack for the console release. So I'm going to try and give you a brief shorthand version of the story, or I'm going to try my best anyway because it's quite complicated. In the distant future, human governments across Earth have constructed a supercomputer called the Conhuman, and this computer is designed to look after all the environmental systems, health and nutrients and animals and humans and all that kind of stuff. But massive disaster strikes when a cloned human's mind is linked with the system. Conhuman goes crazy, starts destroying everything that it's meant to be looking after, and eventually Conhuman has succeeded in exterminating 99.8% of humankind. All the remnants have fled to different space colonies. Conhuman remakes the interior of the Earth, and as a result, Earth, as humanity knew it, has completely ceased to exist. It's basically been transformed into a planet-sized mobile fortress that is Conhuman's body. So basically, the last few remnants of Earth decide to launch a full-scale offensive attack. They develop some powerful ships. One of them is known as the RVA-818X Lay Starfighter, and that's what you control in the storyline, and you have the challenge of trying to take down Conhuman. So once you hit the title screen, you can head into options and see you can change the level difficulty ranging from normal all the way up to super hard, basically, with all these hard difficulty settings in between. Rapid fire on, you can change the audio, that kind of stuff, and you can change the game mode between Sega Saturn or arcade, which will rotate the screen sideways and also change the control pad layout. So with all of that out of the way, we want to get onto how this game looks, how it sounds, how it plays, what kind of lifespan it's going to give you, and whether it is worth still playing today and can make our Sega Saturn top 10. Now in the looks department, Galactic Attack is pretty much a tour de force of 2D effects, and it really is a decent looking 2D game. We've got fantastic use of color. It's really bright and vivid, really crisp as well and sharp, and I really think it looks quite appealing. It's got multiple layers as well, which give you a great sense of depth on the screen because of the enemies lower down, the enemies higher up on the screen. We've got sprite scaling from when they transcend from lower to higher up the screen as well, which is really good. We've got loads of transparencies, loads of effects like that. So really, in terms of two-dimensional graphics, this game looks very, very good. So moving on to the way everything sounds in Galactic Attack, and it is more positive thoughts really here because the sound effects are genuinely really good. All of the weapon firing, all of the explosions, they all sound really, really good. I haven't got anything negative to say about that whatsoever. And the music as well, I think it fits the scenario of the game absolutely fantastically. I really do. And the music tracks, there's some variety in there, which is good, and they just genuinely have quite a spacey feel to them, if that makes any sense at all. It probably doesn't, but the best thing I can do is play you a few tracks so you can decide for yourself. So moving on to the way Galactic Attack plays, and it is a very simplistic playing shooter. You move around with the D-pad. A fires your main weapon on the enemies that are level with your ship, and B uses your sub-weapon to target the ones that are lower down. You can target to 8 at a time, and that is how the game plays. There are no special attacks, there are no screen-saving super moves that get you out of a tight pickle like in Darius Gaiden. Nothing like that whatsoever. One thing I should point out is if you're playing in 2-player mode, you can only use the sub-weapon to target 4 enemies at once. It makes the game a little bit tougher, and trust me, this game is tough, without a doubt. Even on the normal difficulty setting, I find this game to be quite hard. You can face so much enemy fire at times, especially as you get later on in the game. It makes the game really tough. And I played with 8 credits instead of the standard 4, and you know, I still found this game tough. I don't want to know how difficult it is on the most difficult settings, because you're going to have to be some kind of machine to be able to play through this and get to the end on a harder difficulty. Even on normal, I feel like it's going to be a really big challenge for anybody to pull off. One of the things I will point out about the gameplay is that it gets pretty repetitive. Because there's no variety in the different kind of weapons and power-ups that you can get, I kind of feel it gets a bit boring a bit soon, and there's no desire for me to keep coming back and playing it. There's no desire to turn up the difficulty level to face more of a challenge, because the game is a massive challenge as it stands. So whilst it plays fine, it hasn't really got any depth, and that's a bit of a letdown in my opinion. Talking about the lifespan is quite difficult, because it's going to really depend on what kind of gamer you are as to what kind of lifespan you're going to get from this game. There's only 7 levels, so there's not a whole lot of gameplay here. If you could play through this game from start to finish, it's probably going to take 30 minutes maybe. Not that long, but obviously there's a massive challenge in playing the game. It's very difficult, especially the further you get. There's multiple difficulty settings, so if you want even more of a challenge, this game can give it to you. Now for me, I have no interest in that. My love of shooters isn't particularly high, so I don't really have the desire to just keep coming back, trying to get a higher score or trying to play it on a more difficult setting. There is 2-player, so that will give you more of a lifespan if you've got a friend to play it with, of course. It makes it more fun. Any game in 2-player is always more fun in my opinion. And the other thing that does add a bit of lifespan, I suppose, is the fact that you can change it between Saturn and arcade mode, which rotates the screen around, and you can also change the control pad setting, so it almost plays like a side-scrolling shooter to some degree, like R-Type. Not really, because the enemies kind of come from above and below rather than forwards, but it certainly adds a bit of variety, and it does make the game feel a bit different. But overall, this is my opinion, and my opinion alone, the lifespan isn't great, simply because there's only 7 levels and there is a lack of weapon variety in the game. So moving on to, is Galactic Attack worth playing today? Well, Galactic Attack is a pretty nice looking 2D game, and it's got pretty decent soundtrack, sound effects as well, and it plays well even if it does get repetitive. So yes, it is worth giving it a bash, especially if you love your 2D shooters. You're probably going to get quite a bit of enjoyment from this game, to be fair. It might be short-lived, but you will enjoy it. If you're not a fan of shooters, then you're probably not really missing a lot, to be fair, because I definitely think there's probably better shooters on the system. We played Darius Gaiden from my review a while back, and that game is undoubtedly better than Galactic Attack. Which brings us on to the other question: does Galactic Attack make our top 10? Unfortunately, it doesn't, because of the flaws that it has, the lack of variety in weapons, and the fact there's only 7 levels. You know, they bring it down. Otherwise, it might have been a bit closer, to be fair. What are your thoughts on Galactic Attack or Rayforce or Layer Section, whatever you've known it as? Let me know down below. Is your opinion of it better than mine? Do you think it's better than Darius Gaiden? I can't imagine many people think it is, but let me know with a comment down below. And as always, I will be back in the near future for another Saturn review. Goodbye for now.